First, what I want to say to you is I'm a motorcyclist my entire life. I grew up racing motorcycles, working in a dealership. Then in university I worked in another dealership. After university I spent 9 years for Yamaha US in various sales roles. My first trip to Japan was in 1988 to visit the Yamaha factory, where I fell in love with this country. After 9 years at Yamaha, I went to Ducati, where I spent the next 12 years of my life. Started in the United States, then I moved to Italy, and I lived in Italy for 6 years. My job in Italy was managing distributors worldwide, both in mature markets as well as opening in emerging markets, China, Russia, Brazil. So I focused a lot of my energies on emerging markets. Fast forward after basically 12 years at Ducati, I met Mr. Trunk and Pulse at EICMA in Milan, and we had a coffee, and long story short, he offered me a job with KTM. So I joined KTM in 2009 at the heart of the financial crisis, and I moved from Europe back to the United States. The motorcycle market in the United States was 1.2 million motorcycles per year, and basically overnight it collapsed to about 400,000. So this meant a lot of dealers were going out of business. We had inventory stacked everywhere at the subsidiary level, dealer level, and basically the reason KTM hired me is I'm a little bit of a known, my strengths are to turn around the company. So we had to cut costs and still fly the plane, so to speak, at the same time. Because when I started with KTM in 2009 in the United States, I was also on the supervisory board of KTM Japan, so I was traveling here a few times a year for board meetings. So I was very well aware of the situation in Japan as well as inside of KTM Japan. Also during my tenure in the United States, I worked on special projects around the world for KTM, such as opening the CKD project in Brazil. What else to say about myself is I love motorcycles, I love travel, international travel. I've been in about 50 countries around the world. It's very interesting to me how two-wheel distribution changes from country to country, continent to continent, the different rules and regulations, consumer trends, homologation, the way business is done to me globally is a very good learning experience that helps me, I think, have a grasp from all the countries around the world. There's a lot of differences, but yet a lot of things are the same from a dealer point of view. Obviously, because of the home of the big four Japanese manufacturers, which populates the world of motorcycles, is probably the first one. I have a personal like for the Japanese culture. As I mentioned, I started to work for a Japanese company, Yamaha, in 1988, so I've always liked the culture in the country. So I've been here before and liked it, and like I mentioned, I was on the supervisory board, so I was coming to meet with Mr. Shano on a fairly regular basis. So I didn't know much about details, but I liked the country. When I was graduating university with my engineering degree, my parents forced me to go to the university. I was still racing motorcycles. So when I entered the university, they asked you, what do you want to study? I said, the only thing I like is motorcycles and dogs. Mm-hmm. So the university professor said, okay, you're in engineering. Okay, I'm in engineering. That's how I ended up in engineering. And I wanted to enter the motorcycle industry. I didn't know how to do it. Wrote a letter to Sekiro Honda, introducing myself and saying I want a job at Honda. And this was before email, before cell phone, before internet. And I got a reply back from Mr. Honda to come to their headquarters in California for a job. And this was how I started to think about how I entered the motorcycle industry. I have this letter hanging in my home office. Frank, it was typed with a hand signature. Yeah. Of course, I had an engineering degree, so and I raced motocross. My idea was to be a designer or a suspension engineer. I didn't even think about sales at the time. And when they wrote back, said, sorry, there's no opportunities for engineers in the U.S., but maybe there's an opportunity in sales. So I said, why not? And then I started to explore sales opportunities. Unfortunately, I didn't go to Honda, but I went to Yamaha. But his letter inspired me to go in a different direction from engineering into sales, and 20 years later, this is where I am. It's kind of ironic, full circle, now I live in Japan, or Japanese. They're all good brands. They're all producing fantastic motorcycles. What I believe that sets us apart as a company is from the owner to the management involved, everybody has a passion for motorcycles. And I think this is what differentiates us from the competitors. When I was growing up in high school and college, there's a famous magazine in the United States called Cycle News. You probably know about Cycle News. And they were selling a t-shirt that I used to wear. It said, "I eat, sleep, breathe, live, love, and ride motorcycles." I'm excited to be here because the brand KTM is strong worldwide, and the investments that Austria continues to make in R&D of new models, opening new segments, makes me see a bright future for KTM in Japan.